nice to me in front of your mom. All right, we're live. Hey, everybody, how you doing tonight? It's good to see everybody. Good to see you. So good to have you. I know others are going to be coming in as we continue our time together. Wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of those who are watching us virtually. We know you really want to be in the house, but for some reason you're not able to be here tonight because, you know, being in the space certainly is a lot different than watching virtually. But if the only option you have is to watch virtually, we want you to take advantage of that as well. So we thank you wherever you are for watching tonight. Once again, good evening to everyone. As you do know, we're going to be talking about forgiveness. We're going to be talking about love and relationships is what we're going to be talking about. Remember, we got to continue this conversation. Did you work today? Did you go to work today? Everybody go to work, or did you have the day off? Had the day off? Okay. So if you retired, you have all the days off. Okay. All right. But for those of you that worked, I'm so glad that you weren't so tired that you didn't, that you were able to come out. And so we want to make sure that we give you a few nuggets to work with so that when you leave here, it is our prayer. It's always our prayer that we walk out of this place in better shape than we came in the door. That's always the idea. Even in my personal devotional life, when I get up every morning, the idea is I want to walk out of the door a better person every morning than I did the day before. That's the goal. You know, for every round goes higher and higher. And so that's what we will attempt to accomplish. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost we pray, and the people of God said, Amen. Okay, Matthew chapter 18, and I'm sure that you had an opportunity to read it. We've been looking at it for quite some time. And as I was sharing with someone on my way here tonight, that this is or has been or was designed for three major points, a three major point study with some sub-thoughts and or sub-points that I will be dropping in your spirit as we move along. But again, Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through verse number 35. And again, it's entitled The Parable of the Unmerciful Servant. And one of the things that we gleaned and or gathered from this is the same God who had mercy on us expects, or his expectation is that we demonstrate the same love and mercy to others. That's kind of the gist of it all, because when we look at the story, there was one servant who owed but did not have the financial resources to pay back the debt that he owed. And instead of being locked up and thrown in, instead of the servant being thrown to the ground after he was taken out of his buggy and laid on the ground with a knee in his back and put handcuffs on him before he showed up to work. Okay, that's the Miami Dolphins. My bad. He didn't get what he deserved, and the text says that the master had mercy on him, right? And so because he had mercy, on him, he let him go. As a matter of fact, the suggestion is that if one is locked up, remember we said if you're locked up, then you really don't have the financial resources to pay the debt back. You're locked up until you pay the debt, but how do you pay the debt when you're locked up? And so, of course, mercy was shown to him, but then he experienced something similar to that. Somebody owed him a few jars of pickles, and he was upset about it. And so he went over to deal with the matter, and the person did not have the financial resources to pay him back. And so he, instead of showing mercy like mercy was shown to him, he turned around and had him locked up. But then there were some folks standing on the sideline watching what happened, and went back and told the king what had happened. Of course, he was called to the king's presence, and instead of experiencing his freedom, he was turned around and locked up, just like he treated the person that owed him. And so the gist of the story, and we're going to again talk about it, or share our thoughts from this story, and subject matter, subpoints, or points, subpoints, and maybe subpoints to help us kind of see where God is really trying to take us as it relates to how we ought to demonstrate generosity and grace and kindness and mercy the same way that God extended it to us. I never understood, I guess I do, because I know that humanity in its fallen state or fallen nature has a way of being extremely selfish and not extending to others what God has extended to us. And so that whole concept, that whole idea of what would Jesus do, badges, banners, T-shirts, really meant something, because the idea is that we are to behave ourselves just like Christ would. And so, and in order to do that, it is imperative that one operates with grace and mercy and love and all of those wonderful traits. So last week, I want to, because point number one was last week, as we were kind of dealing with this concept of relationship, love, and forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, I can't be a forgiving person unless I'm a loving person. The heart of a relationship is love, and then forgiveness comes when I love. For God so loved the world, John 3:16, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. God was able to forgive us and extend a new way and a new life for us, because God loved us. And God's love for us extended what's called forgiveness. True love extends forgiveness. So here's something that I want you to write down, and you may have written this down last week. If you didn't, here's something that you walk out of the building with. True love forgives. True love forgives. If I'm demonstrating love, true love, I can't help but forgive, because it's a part of who and what I am. All right? So we said the first point was a loving person is a forgiving person. You remember that? Loving person is a forgiving person. Now, I'm going to jump into. I'm trying to remember, because we did this in the evening, or I'm sorry, the noonday Bible study class. We were picking up at point number 2, and so I'm going to try to keep us together. So write down, a loving person is a forgiving person. And so the American Psychological Association says this, that forgiveness involves willfully putting, now the word is willfully, putting aside feelings of resentment towards someone who has committed a wrong, been unfair or hurtful, or otherwise harmed you in some way. So forgiveness is about putting aside how dirty somebody did you. Forgiveness is not merely accepting what happened or ceasing to be angry or hurt. Just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean you're going to forgive, and it does not mean that you will not be angry or continue to be hurt in some instances. But rather, it involves and I think we talked about this, a voluntary transformation. That's a good word to write down. A voluntary transformation. Forgiveness is about a voluntary transformation. In parentheses next to voluntary, it's intentional. I'm intentional about transforming my feelings, my attitude, and my behavior. That was a good one. I'm intentional about transforming my feelings, my attitudes, and my behaviors. And I'm going to tell you why. It involves an intentional transformation of our feelings, attitudes, and behaviors so that you are no longer, and I love this right here, you are no longer dominated or no longer controlled by resentment. You are no longer controlled by anger. You are no longer controlled by bitterness or hatred. And there's an and, but I'm going to repeat that again. A voluntary or intentional transformation of your feelings, attitudes, and behavior so that you are no longer dominated. You're no longer controlled by resentment. You're not controlled by anger. You're not controlled by bitterness or hatred. And you can express compassion. You can express generosity or the like toward the person who did you dirty. I have who did you wrong, but sometimes, we just got to say what we're thinking. Did you dirty? Yes, ma'am. A voluntary or intentional transformation of your feelings, attitudes, and behavior so that you are no longer dominated or controlled by resentment, by anger, by bitterness, or hatred. And you are able to express, because see, you're no longer dominated by anger. You're no longer controlled by resentment, by anger and bitterness. And because it doesn't control you anymore, you can now express compassion. You can express generosity or the like toward the person who did you dirty, who did you wrong. You can express, once again, compassion and generosity or the like toward the person who did you wrong. You do not have to roll your eyes at nobody, because now you have been, because remember, there was a word that was used, and I think that word was transformed or transformation. Transformation or transformed means to be changed, and I go back to the original Greek that deals with that word. It means to be changed in my nature and my character. I am no longer the same. That's what we say about people who've been saved. If I've been saved, I'm not the same person I used to be, because I've been transformed in my character and in my nature. I am not the same person. Although sometimes the old person wants to creep up in us and come out. And sometimes the old person does creep up and come out. But here it is. I was talking to somebody earlier today. You know that you are on the right track when if something does come up and something comes off, you immediately feel remorse and regret for what you said or what you've done. And then you seek to make it right. That's transformation. Because back in the day, before you met Jesus, before I met Jesus, we would say something and we didn't care what they had to say or what they thought about what we said. And we would keep on walking. But because we've been changed in nature and in character, again, we are not the same person. So transformation, that word transformation, our feelings are being transformed, our attitudes and our behaviors are being transformed, and we are no longer dominated, we're no longer controlled by the resentment, the anger, the bitterness, the hatred, and then we can express compassion and generosity to somebody else. That's powerful. I said, hold on. I was didn't get to finish what I was saying to you earlier. I was talking to somebody earlier. I said sometimes, and I have to work on this as a pastor, preacher, teacher, that sometimes you can get overload. In other words, I can give you so much information that it becomes overload. Instead of taking my time and spending my time on one or two thoughts that you can absorb, that we can absorb, and then once we absorb that information good, then we can move forward or we can move to the next thing. But here's the challenge sometimes. Sometimes we have not absorbed that information, and then all of the other information just kind of starts coming at us. And so I was saying that sometimes we have to take our time when we're working with this information. So, or I have to repeat it, because repeating helps me to grab hold of the information. How do you memorize? How do you memorize stuff? When you were a kid and you were growing up in the church, and you know, back in the day, I remember we used to have to do those Easter speeches. Man, and I'm gonna tell you something. You know, when I was coming up and we had to do them Easter speeches, you couldn't get up there with a piece of paper. You couldn't get up and hold that paper and say, "Jesus loves you," and then keep on moving. You had to memorize that speech. And so, how did you memorize that speech? How do you memorize? Repetition? Repetition. You know, that's how we'd read it over and over and over and over and over. That sounds like a gospel song entitled "Over and Over." I think the gospel group was called Shalimar. Okay, I just thought you were going. Okay, all right. So that's what we attempt to do, because if we give the information, if we constantly repeat certain concepts and ideas that God has for us, the purpose of it is so that we can grab hold of it, because once you grab hold of this information, when you walk out of this door, because I'm telling you, when you walk out of this door, even tonight, you're going to be faced with a challenge where you're going to have to utilize some of this information that we're talking about. I promise you, you're going to have to do it. I was pulling out of an intersection earlier today. I was, and it was early in the morning, and you know there's a lot of traffic and a lot of people moving, and so if you don't move, you know, like, well, I'm sure it happens in Fayetteville, because Fayetteville is a military city, and so you got people here from all over the place. So, you know, so people drive all kinds of ways depending on where you're from. And so I'm originally from California, but I pastored in New Jersey and spent a lot of time on the New Jersey Turnpike and the Garden State Parkway. And I'm going to tell you something. If you don't move, they're going to run you over. And keep on driving. So I was in Mr. P, I was in a position where I was at the stop sign. And, you know, you look to make sure traffic is, you know, and I got a break. And as soon as I jumped out and I turned, and all of a sudden, and it was probably one of y'all, there was somebody that was right on me. And they started flashing the lights, because that was, it could be a sign of one thing. Either you need to know I'm behind you, or I'm mad because you pulled out and you slowed me down. And so what I did as I was pulling out, you know, I did what Sister Bonds would do. I hit my brake on purpose. No, I didn't do that. No. Sister Bonds wouldn't do that either. So what I did is I stepped on the gas and I took off. And as I took off, because I didn't want to impede their progress what I typically do, here's my apology. I have what's called driving apology language. Anybody have apology driving? My apology driving language is I put my hazard light on for a second and then turn it off to let the person know behind me, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I apologize. I personally didn't really think it was a big deal. And for some people, they would have either put on the brake or they would have said, you know what, you just gonna wait. But for me, I wanted to move and I wanted to say, I'm sorry, because I didn't realize, I thought I had more time. And so I jumped out, because if I didn't jump out, had I not jumped out when I did, and that was early this morning, I'd still be up there right now, trying to get here. And so my point in all of that is, we have to know that even in situations like that, and I'm going to share this in point number 2, that we still have to demonstrate what we call an act of kindness. Even when the person behind me was really telling me off with their headlights. Okay, y'all missed what I just said. They were demonstrating one thing with their headlights, but I was demonstrating something else with my hazard lights. They said with their headlights, get out of my way. You pulled out on me. I don't know why you did it. You should have stayed where you were. Don't you see me coming? And then all of a sudden I took off and then hit my hazard lights real quick to say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. That was my apology language. My apology, and I always do it if I get in a jam. I let people know. And I know that when people do that, where I'm from, that's what people do. When people, they put the hazard, you just click it real quick, click, and then you turn it off. And it says, I'm sorry. That's the language. And so what I'm suggesting is we have to learn, even in moments like that, even if the other person, we feel like they're wrong, we still have to demonstrate what I call acts of kindness, generosity, and grace. That's the very foundation and the heart of forgiveness. And I'm going to talk about something else in a minute. But let me do this, because I know you're ready to write. I'm ready to give you a whole lot of stuff. Here it is. I'm still on to point number 1. I'm gonna say this because there are some benefits of forgiving folk. Now, when we were together last week, I went through the whole thing, and I was done, and I was moving to 2. But you know what I do? What I typically do in between now and next Wednesday, I'm gathering more information to put into this document that I can give you. So this is what happened. I had a conversation with the Mayo Clinic, and they suggested that the benefits of forgiving somebody are, number 1, you have what's called healthier relationships. When you forgive people, you have healthier relationships when you forgive people. Okay, I used this illustration, I think, earlier. Don't raise your hand. Please don't, because then everybody gonna know your business. Here it is. Has anybody that you've ever dated or been married to in your life, over the course of your life, could have been years ago, broke your heart? And when I say broke your heart, you thought you were the only one. I mean, when I say you thought you were the only one, you thought you were the only one. And then you discovered, however you discovered it, whether you like to go in folks' phones or drive by folks' jobs or go by their house, you discovered that you weren't the only one. You thought you were, but you discovered that it was somebody else. And it broke your heart. And when I say broke your heart, I mean you said, not only am I going to kill him, but anybody else that looks at me like that gonna get this. And one of the reasons why is because we fail to forgive and move on. And so what typically happens is this, and I know I got at least 10 witnesses who can testify to this. Somebody new comes along, and guess what happens when somebody new comes along? And we haven't forgiven and moved on. We will treat that person the same way I'm not going to say the same way that person treated us, but our behaviors toward the new person will implement those behaviors in a new relationship. Here it is. The other person used to get phone calls, and they would either hit decline, or they would walk out of the room or out of the house to take the phone call. And you discovered that person was talking to the other person that ended up kicking you to the curb. You get in a new relationship now, but you haven't forgiven and moved on. Now you're in a new relationship. You got baby now. And what happens is the phone rings, and the first thing you do is run over to the phone and grab it to see who called it. Or can you do one better than that? See, I always know I'm on the right, trust me, I always know I'm on the right track when the whole room is quiet. Here's the other thing that happens. When the person that you were dating before said they were at work, and you discovered that they wasn't at work, but they were somewhere else, the new person who said, I'm going to work, I got to work a 12-hour shift, and I got to work all night long. And you say to yourself, you know what? I trust them. They work all night. I understand it. But then, roughly around 10, 11 o'clock, you get it. You say to yourself, you know what? I'm hungry. I'm going to go by McDonald's drive-thru and get me some fries. And on your way to McDonald's, it takes you right by the job because you want to find out whether or not they're on the job because the last person wasn't on the job. Man, I said a whole lot. And you know what I said? Here it is. What happens is when we don't forgive, they create dysfunction in all of our relationships. So forgiveness, again, number one, creates what's called healthy relationships. If I forgive you, you forgive somebody, truly forgive them, guess what? You can move on. But if you haven't forgiven them, I don't care. You can say all day long, oh, I forgive you. Oh, I forgive them in Jesus' name. But if it's not, and I'm going to talk about something else in a second, if something has not been worked on so that it develops or creates forgiveness in my heart and in my mind, then all I'm doing is talking. They're nothing but words. That's like somebody saying, I love you, but they put their hands on you. I just felt about 5 of y'all said, I wish they would. I felt it in my spirit. Said, not me. Not me. You see, that's why they walking the way they walking right now? Because what they tried to do. All right, I'm gonna get to it. Healthy relationships. Number 2, I'm going to move quick. Forgiveness leads to not only healthy relationships, but it leads to improved mental health. Man, there are some people that can drive you crazy if you let them. It improves mental health. Improves mental health. And I said it one more time. I'm going to say it one more time. If you let them, they'll drive you crazy. They'll have you all messed up. They'll have you so discombobulated that you won't know what to say, where to go, how to get there. Mental health. Number 3, forgiveness creates less anxiety, stress, and hostility. See, I don't have time for anxiety, stress, and hostility if I'm forgiving. Because, and I'm going to talk about it again, because there's some muscle development that's taken place in my life. I'm putting the cart before the horse. But again, less anxiety, stress, and hostility. Number 4, I have fewer symptoms of depression. Depression. I've seen people, and you have as well, and it may have even happened to you, that have you ever been so hurt by a relationship that you lost about 10, 15 pounds? Y'all got real quiet on me. And you trying, and it's because when people sometimes, one or two things happen when people are depressed. Either they gonna eat or they not gonna eat. Okay, let me say it one more time. Either they gonna pick up 50 pounds or they're going to lose 50 pounds. Man, there's probably two people in here right now said, I know what you're talking about because I've been down that road before. Okay, let me ask the question. Have you ever been down that road before? Anybody ever been down there? Okay, I'm just checking. Fewer symptoms of depression. I got to write this stuff down. I got to put it on the screen. Fewer symptoms of depression. Number 4. Lower blood pressure. Lower blood pressure. That's number 5. I'm sorry. Lower blood pressure. Number 5. Sometimes doctor said you got it because it runs in your family. But sometimes you got it because you're allowing folk to drive you crazy. And sometimes they'll say, well, if your family, people in your family had high blood pressure, and then you end up with, you got high blood pressure, sometimes it's because the same craziness that your mama and daddy and grandparents and uncles and aunts went through, you've taken on the same craziness. So now we all crazy and we got to deal with high blood pressure. Does that make sense? Sometimes it's not because of folks' genes or because of what they say your family has, but it's because sometimes it's about dieting and what you eat. I mean, listen, there's some things that my father passed down to me in terms of diet, and I still eat it today. But guess what? So do my children. We passed it down. There's some things, okay, at least one thing that my father passed down to me, and some folks say to me, do you want some chicken to go with that hot sauce? Hot sauce. And I never thought in a million years that my son was going to come to the table and here he go. My father was a cheese person. Man, my dad, he's a military man. He would go to the commissary and he would get them blocks of cheese. And he would bring them blocks of cheese home and he would cut the cheese and eat that. And we'd be cutting the cheese and eating it too. My father ate lemons with salt. And let me tell you something, and you haven't had a real lemon unless you put a lot of salt on it. I didn't say it on those sprinkle. You got to. You got, so sometimes people put in lemons, what do they call those sticks, candy stick inside. Okay, y'all don't do that either. Okay. Huh? What'd you say? Peppermint stick, that's it. I can't do that. I got to have a lot of salt. I'm just saying that there's some habits that and I noticed something else. It's funny. I noticed when I was a kid growing up that my grandfather did the same thing. So sometimes what keeps our blood pressure up is not the fact that everybody's sick. It's because of the diets that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation. So what am I trying to say in all of that? Low blood pressure has to do sometimes with diet, and I'm going to talk about that in just, I'm going to just give you the points and keep on going. But it also has to do with our inability to say, I forgive you, and I'm carrying all of this drama. That's another part of it too. Because some of us learn how to be what we are once again by the house we grow up in. Mama wasn't a forgiver, so I ain't forgiving you either. Daddy wasn't a forgiver, so I'm not forgiving. Auntie wasn't, Big Mama wasn't, so I'm not going to do it either. So we absorb those traits and those behaviors, and we not only enact those, but we pass them down to the next generation. It's real cute. It's real cute. I know he's not going to want me to talk about him, so I'm not going to say his name. But there are some things that that someone. I'm trying to, Miss Angie. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. There are some. When I pastored in New Jersey, there was a little boy who was crazy about the preacher. He was a little old thing, and he used to wear these glasses. He was little old. I mean, when I say little, he was little, and he loved the pastor, and true. This is a true story. He's got to be by now, he's got to be about maybe 12 years old or so. But his grandmother would come to church, or his mom would come to church with videotapes of him preaching in the house. Okay, y'all missed what I said. You know, where would he get that from? Watching who? Watching me. The point I'm trying to make is, even when we don't think they're watching, they're always watching. And not only are they watching, but they I was going to use the term reenact the same behavior because they watch. They learn from us. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing right there, but there could be some habits that we pass down. And what that does is it really, really not only takes us down, but it can take other people down that are around us as well. Let me keep on going. Number 6, forgiveness can lead to not only low blood pressure, but a strong immune system. A strong immune system. Number 7, am I right? I'm going to number 7 now. That was number 6. A strong immune system is number 6. Number 7 is improve your heart health. Heart health. Improve your heart health. And then finally, number 8, it improves self-esteem. Forgiveness does. It improves self-esteem. All of those things, forgiveness can lead to healthier relationships, improved mental health, less anxiety, stress, and hostility, fewer symptoms of depression, low blood pressure, a strong immune system, improved heart health, and finally, improved self-esteem. I just gave you a whole lot of stuff that if we just forgive, it can create all of that stuff that we've got going on in our lives. Now, I like this because, and this is all under point number 1. Robert Enright, PhD, who's a licensed psychologist and a professor of educational psychology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, he wrote this essay of eight keys to forgiveness. Now, I'm not going to give you all 8, but I got one that's going to help us. One that's going to help us to accomplish those 8 that I just gave you a few minutes ago. I'm just going to give you one. And so he says to practice forgiveness, it helps if you have worked on positively changing what he calls your inner world, you on the inside, by learning to be what he calls forgivingly fit. Forgivingly fit. Forgivingly fit. Forgivingly fit. Just as you would start, and I love this, slowly with a new physical exercise routine. It helps if you build up your forgiving. Write this one down. This is a good one. It's called your forgiving heart muscle. You have a forgiving heart muscle. And let me just say this. if you miss something, I'll make sure to get it, come back and give it to you as well. So don't think I'm gonna throw this all out and you won't have it all. If you want it, come to me. I'll make sure that you get it. He says, forgivingly fit has to do with a forgiving heart muscle. And a forgiving heart muscle, to build it up slowly, we have to incorporate what's called regular workouts into your everyday life. I said regular workouts. Regular workouts. That's like, and it's not going to the gym one day and then saying, I got it. I went to the gym, I worked out one day, now I got my six-pack. Or I go to the gym one day and I get on the treadmill for about 30 minutes, and then we go over to the scale to stand on it to see how much weight did we really lose. It takes work, and it takes time. Those of you who've gone to the gym, and I mentioned this, earlier, I was, and Reverend Adams, I'm on my way back to it. I was a 5 to 6 day a week gymmer. I was a gym fanatic. I was a gym, even when I traveled, I didn't want to miss my day. And what happened to me, honest truth, I got to be honest with you because honesty is the best policy. It's the best policy. It is. So I got to be honest with you. What happened was, Sister Adams, what happened was I was working out, and as I was spending time in the gym, Mother Wilson, I walked by the mirror. And when I walked by the mirror, I liked what I saw. And because I liked what I saw, I wanted more of it so that I can continue to keep the shape that I was working with. So I would go, I would go, but even when I remember when I was working on my D-Min, and I was traveling to United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio, and we would have an intensive in January, and a snowstorm would come through. That next morning, we had to get up and be in session at about 9 o'clock in the morning in the either in the hotel or in the school, and I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the gym when it opened at 5. And not only did I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but remember I said a snowstorm came through. And who was the only bag of nuts on the road at 4:30 and 4:45 in the morning? Me. Who was sliding on the road just to get to the gym? Of course, maybe I was a half bag of nuts because I did at least call and say, "Y'all open?" And they say, "Yeah, we open." I said, "You are?" "Yes." And I was on my way. And I would go in there. You know why? Because I was committed. So wherever, okay, y'all, let me straighten that out. I wasn't committed. I was committed to the gym. Okay, y'all didn't get that. Okay, you said, but in order to get the health and fitness that I was looking for, I had to spend a substantial amount of time working on my physical muscles to accomplish the goal of looking the way I wanted to look. And not just looking, but feeling. Because, sometimes it's hard getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was like, Sister Bonds, it was like, you all probably, Mother Gentry, you all probably wouldn't remember this, but I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if they still have this, Sister Adams, I don't know. They used to have a soap. And you would get in the shower all dragging, and then you would grab that bar of soap and you would smell it, and then you would just start going. I think it was called Coast deodorant soap. It was Coast. Irish Spring had it too. Yeah. Yeah. So I may have dragged to get up, but once I got up, I was good to go. I was good to go until about 12 noon. And then my body said, it's time to take a nap. No, I can't. No, I was good. I was good. The point I'm trying to make is that forgiving heart muscle, you've got to work it the same way. And I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to give you a little bit more to work with. So you can start becoming more fit by making a commitment. Here it is. This is how that physical that forgiving heart muscle, this is how you develop it. You develop it. You've got to, in order for me to be able to forgive, I have to be able to develop, just like in order for me to bench press 355 pounds, I had to start out with the bar first. Okay, you missed what I just said. I had to start out with a 45-pound bar, working out and build myself up to where I could put at least 3 45-pound plates on each side. But it didn't start there. I had to work to get to that. I had to work to it. I was laughing because this was funny. This was real funny. And I told you this. My son, playing football and all that, when he was younger and all that kind of stuff, he wasn't really lifting no weights. He just playing some Pop Warner football. And then after a while, as he started getting older, he started pumping a little bit of iron. Reverend Adams, he started working out. And I said, whatever. And then as he started getting older, I started to notice some changing in his body. I'm like, okay, he's trying to get a little buff on me. Okay. And then I started looking at his legs, and his legs started, because he was a running back, and his legs started kind of going like that. And I've always had chicken legs, but he had them. And so I'm like, because they over on the squat rack, on the 400-pound squat rack, going all the way down, almost touching their heels with their behind and coming up, working out. I said, you know what? I must be honest. As long as I've been working out, I ain't never tried to go that high. I may have played around just for working out purposes 2 1/4, but I'm not going that high. So whenever I am traveling, because he work out and he's gotten buff, all I do is put my suitcase together and I say, hey, Keith, can you take my suitcase downstairs for me? And then when I come back, the suitcase is down in the hall. I'll say, can you take Daddy's suitcase upstairs? Now, I take the suitcase. I'm making a point. I take the suitcase because it's heavy. I grab it. That big old bag probably weigh about 50 pounds without anything in it. So I grab it and I'm walking up, and then here he go. Going up the stairs. I'm like, what? Yeah. But can I tell you something? That didn't happen overnight. That is time of, listen, when you are developing your forgiving heart muscle, you don't work on it. Okay, here it is. A commitment that to do no harm to anybody. That helps to develop that muscle. You can become more fit by making a commitment to do no harm. In other words, making a conscious effort not to talk bad about somebody who hurt you. Okay, we're trying to develop the muscle, and I can't develop my muscle if I'm talking negative about a person who did something to me. I don't have time for that because I'm trying to develop my muscle. And the only way to develop my muscle is to be positive. Look at somebody, say positive. Okay, I'm gonna say it one more time. You got to be positive, right? You don't listen. I'm not saying you have to say about the person that hurt you how wonderful of a person they were. You don't have to say that. But if you refrain from talking negatively, it will feed the more forgiving side. Oh, I love this. It feeds the more forgiving side of your mind and your heart. It feeds the more forgiving side of your mind and your heart. So how am I going to feed this muscle? How am I going to feed this muscle? First of all, I'm not going to talk bad about the person who did something to me. I'm not going to do that because that weakens the muscle. And I'm trying to strengthen my muscle. And watch this. I really don't... if we are going to go to hell, at least don't let nobody take you to hell. Okay, you missed what I just said. If I'm going to go to hell, I heard 5 people in my spirit say, I'm just going to go all by myself. Don't you let nobody take you to hell, because people will. Because people will hurt you to the point where the enemy will suggest to you that you have to continue to say negative things about them, therefore not being able to strengthen that forgiving heart muscle. Here it is, number 2. Now you already got the number 1. And here comes the number 2, Roman numeral number 2. Because remember, Roman numeral 1 was a loving person is a what? Forgiving person. That was number 1. I told you I got a lot of stuff in between, and I didn't give you everything that I went over last week. I just kind of gave you some information that God gave me in the interim. Here's number 2. A loving person is a kind person. I think it's on the screen. Kind person. Kind person. Kind person. Kind person. If I don't have kindness and patience, oh man, here it is. Here's a thought. If you don't hear anything else that's said tonight, I'm going to walk out of here and demonstrate by God's grace kindness and patience. What did you learn in Bible study? Now somebody say, what you learned tonight in Bible study? I learned how to follow the example of my Christ by demonstrating 2 things. And what are they again? Kindness and patience. Got to be kind, but I also have to be patient. I'm so glad that God was patient with me. Okay, let me say that one more time. I'm so glad that God was patient with me, because had God not been patient with me, I would not be standing where I am right now. I don't know where I would be if the Lord didn't have patience with me. Yeah. Listen, it is an essential part of living a holy life to be kind and patient. That's essential. Why is it that, now this is the question that's asked, why is it so hard for baptized believers, saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, why is it so hard for them to be nice? To be nice, to be nice. Because really, most of us know all the 10 commandments pretty well. Don't steal, don't kill, don't commit adultery, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But we somehow forget that being a believer goes beyond the 10 commandments. It does. And an essential part of obeying God is being nice to people. Did somebody, is my mic working? I'm trying to, is it on? Joe, is my mic on? I can't. Hello, can y'all hear me? Is my mic working? Is it working? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just checking. Look at somebody say, be nice, be nice, be nice, be nice. I tell folks, not here. Let me clarify what I'm getting ready to say. Not here. But there are some places that will never grow. And some ministries that will never grow and be effective because people are not nice. And watch this. God will never send people into a situation where people are mean. You know why? Because there are too many nice places God can send them to. Y'all missed what I just said. Man, that's a 1, 2, 3, 4 claps. Okay, yeah. No, I'm serious. Why would I take my child to a daycare center where word on the street is they're mean to kids, that they don't treat kids right? Would I take them there? Would you take them? Look at somebody and say, absolutely not. So I'm a parent and I'm not going to send them there. So why would God, being our parents, send us to a place or a ministry where people are not nice? Ain't gonna happen. Look at somebody and say, ain't gonna happen. Oh my God. Yeah, so gotta be nice. Matter of fact, Malik, you had on a jacket. What did that jacket say you had on yesterday? Choose to be kind. And I had no idea. I didn't even know he had it. That's a beautiful coat to wear. So being nice is a choice. So if people, thank you, Malik. So if people are not nice, that means they chose to be nasty. Oh, man, I got about 5 people said, Pastor, you better preach. I'm getting ready to. You want to hear my hoop? I'm about to bring it in right now. Being negative, critical, fault-finding, rude, gossiping is not the behavior of a believer. Man, listen. I remember there was a time in life, and folk know this, when some good information came across your desk, you couldn't wait to pick up the phone and tell somebody about it. Ooh, man, did you hear about such and such and such and such? But you know what I've learned how to do, and over the course of my life, stuff that's none of my business, I learned to keep it out of my mouth. Okay, let me say that one more time, because y'all got real quiet on me. Look at somebody, say, are you a gossiper? Let me say, why didn't y'all ask each other that question? I do. If it doesn't have anything to do with me, if it doesn't affect my life at all, I don't carry it with me. Did somebody miss that? Mic is on, right? Hello? Mic check. Malik, is it on? We got the mic on? Is the red light on back there? Okay, just checking. Yeah, I don't carry it with me. Ooh, did you hear that such and such and such and such like that? That don't have anything to do with me. As long as, now, if you say, well, I hear that your car in the parking lot got 4 flats. Now I'm going to run out there to find out what's going on. I'm going to engage in something that has to do with me. But if it doesn't have to do with me, I don't engage. I don't even look at somebody and say, I don't even want to hear it. Man, y'all were real quiet. I mean, listen, I chuckle, I say this all the time. You know what? I got enough of my own issues. I'm going to say, okay, that's 1, 2 claps. I got enough of my own issues to be worried about other folks' stuff. Y'all miss what? Now notice, if somebody comes and I need to help or aid somebody or work with somebody, I'm good with that. I'm talking about if somebody comes back and says, ooh, did you hear? Did brother so-and-so and sisters, I don't know. I don't want to know. My ears don't need to hear that. Don't need to hear it. Because it has absolutely nothing to do with my life. It doesn't change my life at all. I try to teach my kids stuff like that. Said, if it doesn't affect your life, keep it moving. I love that word. That's my wife's word. She's always right. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Look at somebody, say, keep it moving. All right. I'm gonna give you this last thought, and then I'll pick up here. I think, Malik, this is the same place. I think some people's lives are marked by constant conflict. Some people's lives, constant conflict. Is that where I stopped? Because I was going to say, it seems they are always in the middle of a mess or a fight. Some people. All right, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to try to keep things consistent. So there is a muscle that we got to work on that will help us to forgive. Can you tell me what that muscle is called? Oh, you all over it. Forgiving heart muscle. Who was that said that? Oh, boy, I wish Malik was like his mom. She answered that question just like that. She said the forgiving heart muscle. And so how do I develop this muscle? What do I do to develop this muscle? I'm closing it. Okay, I got to leave it open. What do I do to develop? How do I develop this forgiving heart muscle? What are some of the things I mentioned that we have to do? Yeah, not make commitments not to harm, hurt, disparage, talk about other people, even if they hurt you. That's how you grow stronger in your forgiving heart muscle. Yeah, and there's something else. I'll share that next week, because one of the things that can happen as you're developing that muscle is, it's like. Remember, I said earlier that when I first started going to the gym, I had the 45-pound bar doing what I needed to do, but I had gotten up to about 355 pounds on the flat bench. But I started with 45. And the other thing that, I better watch what I say. I just said something, Reverend Adams, I shouldn't have said. And y'all missed it. Okay, I started with 55, not 45. Oh, y'all still not there. Okay, that's all right. And so what helped me to develop strength was once I got accustomed to, or my body muscles got accustomed to utilizing a certain machine or a certain exercise, St. Louis, I had to change up, because I would work out and although I might get tight, I wouldn't feel it like I did when I was really in the midst of it. So I had to make some adjustments so that my body would continue to develop. So it is with that heart muscle. When you develop in one area and master one area, then God will give you other areas to master so that you grow stronger with that heart muscle, that forgiving heart muscle. Yeah. Whew. Man, y'all wore me out tonight. Is it hot in here or is it me? Is it me? Oh, okay. All right. Listen, we getting ready to go. I was supposed to stop 15 minutes ago. But I just got, I got to get y'all home. I got to get y'all home before the street lights come on. Because anybody know like me, when I was growing up, Mama said, them street lights better not come on. Yeah. And there have been a few times when I'm running to the house and the street light goes click. I was like, nah. Mama was a little easy, but Daddy didn't play. Man, my father, I would, say this, my aunt who comes to church here often, my Aunt Dot, my father's, that's his sister. She's the youngest. No, she's in the middle. And she thinks highly of her big brother. But her big brother used to wear us out. I mean, I said this before. Listen, I'm about to pray. Anybody ever get whooped out of the bed? Because you thought going to sleep was going to get you out of your whooping? If I just go to bed, I'm not going to get it. And I know when Miss Angie went to sleep to try to get around it, Mother Wilson said that ain't happening. Man, I'll never forget that. I broke a vase. And I did like the Brady Bunch. I tried to, how they when they glued that vase back together. And then that water started seeping out of that vase when they were sitting around the table. I broke a vase doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, and we put that thing back together, Mother Gentry, and went to bed like nothing happened. And it was as though in the middle of the bed that the exorcist showed up in the room. No question, no conversation. She just went to work. Oh, my goodness. God be with us until we meet again. Let us pray. Dismiss us, God, from this marvelous and wonderful session, but never your presence. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you.